Welcome back, my friends, to Healing Together and another episode in David and Sara's life as they share how God showed up even in the difficult times. I hope you enjoy the story. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button for this episode. We would greatly appreciate that. Have a blessed day. Enjoy the story.
I was worn out.
I mean, Sara had
he was
just
worn
gotten
out.
through,
Like 2009, all these things are
lost
just
a job,
bam, bam,
started
bam,
at
bam,
the
bam.
church. Sarah's health.
I'm
getting
finally
better in my
healthy and
eyes,
getting better. He's had this surgery. Like, we're just
not driving anymore. There was a lot going on.
there. Yeah, and that's when he was the bull in the china shop, living his life, and it was just like the very last thing. I thought, how in the world, could we even imagine this? And I came home just like all worked up, and she said, I'm going to email you a picture of her, so go home and check your email.
So we did.
And I opened up that email, and her face was there.
And at the time, I could still see her face.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So.
And we just sat there in silence until he said, "Huh."
That was it.
And then I was like, "Oh, I know what that means."
It's a green light.
And I just remember sitting there. I was just in disbelief. I went to work the next day, and I told a couple people I was close with, I'm like, you're not going to believe what was presented to us last night. And even as I told people, I knew, even though I was resisting it, that if this was God calling us to do it, there was no way that we could say no. Well, and I think that's like a huge pivotal moment.
It is. It was October
for both of us.
It was October of 2009 when we got that
news. That God, before we'd gone through my illness, before we would have gone through him becoming legally blind, somebody would have presented that to me, I would have said, you're crazy. Like, no, I don't have the courage for that. I don't have that. I didn't have that kind of faith. But we'd gotten to that point in life where God had given both of us, even though it was crazy, he was actively at work in our lives.
And we could see that.
We could see that even through the midst of the pain that was happening, we could still see that. And that's one of the biggest pieces of my testimony, with my walk of faith, is I knew my faith had grown to a point where I could be presented something so far outside of what I ever imagined, and I knew that I didn't have a choice. There was no decision to make, because if God was calling us and he had brought us this far, then the answer was yes. No matter what.
Wow. Halfway around the world to Uganda, Africa, to go save this.
I never thought I would have that kind of faith.
I mean, Tyler walked around the corner when we looked at her photo, and after I did and Sara and I looked at each other. Tyler,
that was a couple weeks later.
Yeah,
before he.
Yeah, that's right. He did.
So, we started doing all our research and everything, and within a couple of weeks, we were telling everybody this is what we're doing. And we sat down with him one night just to bring him into this. And I mean, he'd heard a lot of what we were talking about, but we said, we need to hear from you before we make this official.
And how old is he?
So he was 10. He was 10 years old.
Yep.
Yeah. And he looked at both of us, and he said, you have to go get her.
You have to go get her.
And that was it. For him, he was this little boy who had already been through way too much in my eyes. He had to worry about whether his mom was going to live.
Yes.
He's watching his dad lose his eyesight, and I kept disappearing for weeks on end sometimes for surgeries, and we were doing all this stuff with him, and I thought, how can we just...
Yeah, and he was he had some struggles. He and I could not do as much anymore with my loss of sight. With the sight decreasing. I mean, one of our greatest things was throwing the ball to each other, throwing a baseball to each other, throwing the football to each other. And those couple years through the working for the church, and then in 2009 and 2013, I mean, seeing that vision go away and not being able to do that anymore, and us,
it's really hard on him.
it was really hard on him. But for us, God he does have a sense of humor. I mean, I had just started to work for the church, and I had just did a survey for the church, and we wanted to get to know what the congregation knew about everything Harris Prairie Church of Christ was about. And I asked questions. I wanted to find out what was the most fear people had in serving, volunteering, serving in areas. Let us know what your fears are, and we could either help you with that or put you in somewhere where it would best fit for you to volunteer and help the church out. On this survey was a question about the biggest fear, and had all these details of what people could check mark. And I remember check marking one. I was volunteering for a church. I was doing things with kids at the time, and I put on there, check international mission trip, traveling internationally. Didn't want to do it. Sarah had never been.
I never wanted to go. I never wanted to leave the United States. Like, I was very happy and comfortable here, and I thought there's really no reason.
And that survey was done during the summer, fall 2009. So when we found out in October 2009 about Fiona, this little 4-year-old in Uganda, and accepted that God was leading us that direction, it was just an amazing just course correction. Not only did I feel like God was leading me into ministry to work for the church finally through my adversity, but through Sarah's adversity as well.
So we made our first trip to Uganda in May of 2010, and it took about a year for us to actually be able to bring her home. So the first trip we went, the attorney said, get over here, the court's going to go on summer recess, which is several weeks long, and so I can get you into court. You just need to get on a plane and get here. And we did.
So
and
this was a one-way ticket to Uganda. We did not have a ticket.
Wow.
And
So
we stayed for 5 weeks
a little over 5.
waiting for a court date that never came.
In a third world country, we didn't even realize that God would put us in.
Yeah.
Our whole lives leading up to this point.
Yeah.
Praying every day.
And we're both away from work. There's no income coming in. And I mean, I don't know what we were. I mean, you look back on it and think that was completely crazy.
I
What,
remember.
what were we doing?
I remember my parents thinking we were crazy.
Yeah.
Are you serious? With everything you have going on and all that's going on and what you guys are doing, you want to go halfway across the world to Uganda, Africa?
Yeah.
And
So we finally said, okay, the courts were closing at that point, so we got to come home. And then I went back in September of 2010, and we went to court, and we got granted adoption. And since he had already been in the country and met her, he didn't need to be there for that part. And at that point, we're like, it's probably better for him to stay home with Tyler and not create that absence again.
We knew that.
So I was there for about 4 weeks, and then we started having trouble getting her visa to come to the United States. So
And we had some struggles along the way. Different lawyers, trying to struggle through the government system and all kinds of authorities that we had to work through.
he might.
He's asking me to do something.
He's asking
for
you to
him.
do something, yes.
I
We can
see
get
that.
Fiona.
He said, I don't know, but he's asking.
That's okay.
Oh, there we go.
That's
Okay.
right. He can wait.
He'll be
He'll wait.
I'm sorry, honey.
Since we're a little bit interrupted, everybody needs to see. This is Flynn.
Yes, this is
Yes.
Flynn.
Aw.
At the beginning of the recording, you heard Flynn snoring.
Yes, I noticed that
That
too.
was him. And this is David's seeing eye dog.
Yep, leader dog for the blind.
Leader dog for the blind. And he is awesome.
He is. He is.
I knew he was trying to tell me something.
He's so polite.
Oh,
She's
is.
like,
I know.
He is. But
See, there-
but yes. But and we got a story. I've got more. We have more to say about Flynn and the process before then of God leading me down this path and the struggles with that too. But the Uganda struggle through the international adoption process.
there was a lot going on in
There was a
between
lot.
the Ugandan courts and the U.S. Embassy at that point, and so we weren't the only families stuck in this process. There was a lot of families kind of going through the same thing. So, very difficult decision to make. But I came home after 4 weeks because I was the working person in the family, and I needed to get back to work and have some income coming in. So,
The one real quick thing before you came home, I was doing a concert event at the church, and I get a call from Sarah and Rochelle and the two girls, Rachel and Fiona. Everybody's so happy, just laughing and saying, "We're coming home. We're coming home tomorrow." Or, I mean, we fly out tomorrow. Or was it the next day
no,
after
it was
tomorrow?
sometime that week.
Yeah, it was that week.
Yeah.
A couple days later or something like that. And so excited. And then to go to the embassy.
Yeah, then it
to
was
get
the
the
next
visa.
day, went to the embassy, and that's when everything started falling apart.
And Sarah and Rochelle both were told, you cannot leave with your children. That we already had custody of through the courts in Uganda. And had no one else to take care of them at the time either, until we worked something out. But that was a really big moment of prayer, of struggle.
So we ended up
pride.
staying a little bit longer so we could get some things worked out, get them in a home where they would be safe. Because at that point, I couldn't leave her in the village at that point to go back to where she
And how
had been
old was
staying. She was 5.
5 at the time.
Yeah, she was 5. And then, so I came home, and it took 7 months to get her visa to go back and bring her home. But yeah, so we had a family to take care of her. Leaving her in the village, like I said, was not an option at that point, because at that point, everybody knew she'd been adopted by Americans, and that put her at risk.
Danger.
Yeah. So we luckily had a family outside of the village who lived closer to downtown Kampala who agreed to care, and they had a safe, place for her to be where people wouldn't know that she'd been adopted by Americans.
But we were putting our trust in
someone
that we had just
not known a hugely long
not that
time.
long.
Yeah.
But it was something we had to do, and it was such a grueling decision because then we would only see her on Skype at the time, and every now if Skype would be working okay.
Yeah. So I left my
Yeah.
laptop there with that family so that we could communicate with her. And then we had an attorney who took on our case pro bono and
Wonderful.
helped us work through the process to get the visa. And then
Wow.
finally bring her home in May of 2011.
Lawyer,
We're probably not supposed to say that.
but wonderful lady that helped us, had a ministry of her own that helped adoptive parents with struggles
That
like this.
international ones that were
International.
running into problems with embassies and
So she
Courts
was
and-
wonderful. It took a while.
yeah,
but
she was amazing.
to get that call though, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
You got it from her.
I got it from her at work, and my phone rang, and I saw the number on the screen, and I picked it up, and the first 2 words that she says to me was, "It's over." So she said, "It's all over. You've got her. We've got the visa. You're gonna go get her."
Wow.
So
So of course that trip back over for you,
That
and
was-
Rochelle, to get the girls was a lot happier.
yeah,
Sure.
Go back over, and we had a celebration. We
Yeah.
got home, and it was just wonderful. And
Wow.
it was.
And
Wow.
the 2 girls that you went to get were sisters.
we
yeah.
didn't
So
know for
we didn't
sure.
know for sure that they were sisters, because at first they said, our friends had Dorcas, the older one, and then Rachel, and then they said there's another little girl that needs adopted, but we do believe they have the same mom, but we didn't know it at the time.
Okay. Different dads,
Yeah.
maybe the same mom is what we believe now. But paperwork is, you just can't, they don't
sure.
keep records. And
Yeah.
You know, it's just a time. They don't keep any kind of
Yeah.
things
So,
like that.
so are the other girls here local?
So our friends moved to Seattle.
The day after we get back
Yeah.
from Uganda,
Yeah,
he
they
got a new job and they had to immediately transfer to Seattle. From
So we've been there a few times. Rachel's been here a few times. So they're very close and in touch on a
Good.
constant basis. Yeah.
So it was,
Technology today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
but it was such a roller coaster ride of needing to have faith in God, needing to be in prayer about everything through the whole. I mean, you'd be sitting there with candles because electricity was out in the whole village, and no water, and praying together about what was going on, and that God lead us through this and help us get through this, and help Fiona and Rachel be able to come home with both families. And I mean, at that time we didn't know how long we were going to be there. Certain times, it wasn't always known to us, and that you had to have so much faith that that God was going to make it happen. And there were a lot of times where people did not believe that was going to happen around us.
Right.
And we were pretty stubborn about it. It's gonna make this work. This is gonna happen. And just that phone call that came in, and you guys coming off the plane, and seeing the girls and everybody having signs up, welcoming them to United States, and driving home, and the girls seeing the United States for the first time, and Fiona coming home and us throwing a big family celebration. And Fiona walking, she was pretty shy. She barely speak a few words. I will hear her sing every now and then, but English maybe a few words at the most. She walked out of the house, and we couldn't figure it out. She was walking on grass, so weird. And she was tiptoeing, and she was like lifting her feet up. She had never felt grass before.
And she's 6.
She's 6.
Wow.
And showing her bedroom for the first time, painted in her favorite color at the
Hot
time.
pink.
Hot
Yeah.
pink.
It was glowing.
She had her own bed,
Oh.
that she
Wow.
did not have her own bed in Uganda. She'd sleep with sometimes 3, 4 other girls in this foster home that did what they could.
Sure.
And it was such a blessing of a time, again, in the midst of so much challenge and change.
Sure.
I mean, May of 2011, when we brought Fiona home, was in the midst of the struggle at church, and the struggle of me losing
And his
eyesight.
vision was
and
going
the
all over the
struggle
place.
of
Yeah.
just trying to get through everything, and
Yeah. That definitely is when we had a lot of people start questioning us about what we were doing and like why we were choosing to take on
right.
so much. But that's where we just stayed very steadfast in the way we responded to people was
We
God
believe
called us to do this.
God called
So
us to do
this isn't an option in our minds. This is
It was so clear of all these course corrections, all these new God moments, that this was the direction God had for our family. One thing we didn't mention was before learning about Fiona and before Sarah got through all of her health issues, we had been trying to have another child.
well, that's in between when
In
we
between.
thought, well, maybe I'm well.
Yes, in the
And I
midst
wasn't.
of the surgeries and these procedures that we thought would work and
Yeah.
for Sarah.
Yeah.
We thought, Tyler was getting a little older, and we were like, we wanted to have another child, and
So we started
Sarah-
looking at adoption.
it was crushed. We were in our own box at the time. We still thought we were in control, not God at the time, and we were like, okay, maybe we can adopt. yeah, we'll adopt from St. Joe County, Indiana. We're looking for this age of baby in this situation. And yeah, let's start to work at this.
So we started working on our home study paperwork.
But what the crazy thing that led us into that though was Sarah had to go to the doctor one day, and we thought she was pregnant.
Oh no, that's back in 2006.
Yeah, that's why you were going through all this before we knew about Fiona.
Okay.
You know, Sarah was going through everything. We were wanting to have another child,
Yeah.
and
So this is right before I found out I was sick. So I go to the doctor. She does an exam, and she's like, "I think your uterus seems enlarged to me. Like I think you might be pregnant." And she sent me home with prenatal vitamins. I mean the whole bit. And she's like, "I want you to come back on Tuesday. We'll do an ultrasound. I know you're getting a negative test at home, but let's just see what's going on." And so like
hopes were so
I was like,
at the time.
I knew, I was like, "Oh, we're pregnant. This is it. That's why I don't feel good. This is, you know." And then of course nothing was there when we went for the ultrasound.
And that began the
And then
surgeries and procedures.
And then all through that time I thought, I don't know that I'm going to be able to physically have another baby. And so
when we
started thinking
decided
about
to think about
adoption. But less than a week after that ultrasound is when I started getting sick and figured out that's why I hadn't been feeling well for quite some time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, God led us, out of that, we recovered, you recovered, and then made the decision.
That's when we said God has to have a sense of humor,
it's-
because we had said we're going to adopt, we want a baby. If you could just have the baby look like us, that would be
Yep.
fabulous.
From
Maybe
our
even some
area.
red hair.
Sure.
So
Locally, this area.
that we don't even have to explain to anybody that we adopted. And then like literally almost instantly we get this picture of
Yep.
Fiona.
And
You need to go-
instantly just light switch.
Yeah.
Just such a moment for us that was so pivotal in everything that we've done since then. It's led us to have the strength not only to go through all that international adoption process, get through our surgeries and all that, but not only that, but then even though we were still stressful and I was losing my vision still, and that was all, I didn't have much left, I decided that I wanted to begin my master's degree.
Well, that's where we're going to wrap it up for the day. And we hope you've enjoyed the story of David and Sara that they have shared today. Come back and join us again as they continue to share. If you have not, please do hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. We love it. We're right at about 100 subscribers, and that's a fantastic start. Hit that like button if you would, and we look forward to seeing you next time as David and Sara share even more of their story with us. Thank you so much for stopping by.